Greetings and welcome to Real Talk with Joy. I am your host, Joy Bong. It's going to be a great day. This is another episode of the show, and we're recording live from studios here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm really so excited about today's segment. You're in for a huge surprise, shocking, different flavor and everything. I just cannot even wait to proceed further with this interview. But if I must say, I wonder how the audience is doing. I mean, we're recording all the way from the United States, and the weather is totally below 10 degrees. It's extremely cold, but we're excited. We're going to push through with fire and desire in the studios today. But first, I'd like to introduce you to my guest of today's show. My guest is no one else than Mrs. Princess, if I may say, Niki. A lot of people know her as Niki Roberts. She's an unapologetic pioneer of sorts who's courageously striving to break into new grounds in all areas and all aspects. She was born in Lagos, Nigeria, precisely. She attended elementary and secondary school there before traveling to the United Kingdom to further her studies. Now, upon return, Miss Niki has worked in the hospitality industry in Nigeria as well as in the United States. Now, after she got immigrated to the United States, she has worked in several sectors as an administrator and also social service provider. She started the first multicultural television station in the Southeast region, precisely Atlanta, Georgia, and produced her own talk show, Talk Time Africa. Niki is an advocate for education, a very strong advocate for education, and is a continuous learner herself. You know, with her background, her degrees, associate's degree, bachelor's degree in administrative office technology, information security specialist, and also a technical communication specialist as well. And if I must say, she also has a bachelor's degree in psychology. And she's heavily involved in the community and effects of things that has to do with Nigeria and Africa as a whole. Here in Atlanta, Georgia, she has served in several leadership roles in several capacities with several organizations. If I must say, she is the General Secretary to the Ethic Association, the Georgia chapter. She's the Vice Chair of the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee, NAPAC, here in Georgia, and the President of Association of African Media Practitioners. And of course, the current president of her high school alumni, Reagan Memorial Baptist Girls Secondary School in Lagos, Nigeria. Now, not only does she believe in leading to serve, she also believes in striving and serving hardly to lead. Consequently, she has volunteered in various capacities, including, being selfless to the homeless shelters, nonprofit associations, organizations here in Atlanta, Georgia, you name it. But Niki believes in family ties. She's a strong advocate, like I mentioned earlier, for education. And through her nurturing, this has translated to be to enclose her having responsible governance, and therefore she brings passion for sustainable growth into anything that she does, youth development, and also integration in the political sphere. A re-engineering of mind to embrace diversity, and above all, she has a strong stake on integrity and a strength of character. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the world, Mrs. Niki Roberts. Mrs. Niki, thank you so very much for gracing this occasion, being here for this interview with me here at Real Talk with Joy. We truly appreciate your audience, and I know the world is ready to see and to hear from you because, as being one of the first ladies ready to go out running for president for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. How does that feel? Just tell us. How does it feel at this point, having been chosen to run for the office of President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and what experience or track record do you have for such?
Well, first of all, let me thank you, Joy, for having me on the show.
Thank you so much for coming.
I've had so much fun just being here in the past few minutes, and I look forward to having a wholesome conversation with you and with everyone that's here. Having said that, one of the reasons why I want to run for this office is because, if not now, when.
True.
In Nigeria, we've had a cycle of, not going anywhere. It seems as though we are static in one position, and it seems like the leaders are bereft of ideas. And so this is a time when we need fresh ideas, fresh faces, and the people who really have something to offer for the 21st century. One of the other reasons why I would like to run for the president of Nigeria is because women have been mobilizing for a long time. Doing grassroots politics and making sure that, women turn out for voting in election cycles. And it seems that we're just not represented enough at that level. For instance, there are just 6% of elected and appointed women in officials in Nigeria. And so we have to change that narrative. And that's another reason why, I wanted to come out, just so that I can give hope to women and we can nail this equity thing. We are the same with our menfolk, and we want to be able to present what we have on this platform to make sure that we build our country to the next level.
Awesome. I really love such a response from you. Now, what challenges do you foresee, in the upcoming general elections in Nigeria that you think you might have, especially as an unequivocal dynamic leader and being a woman?
Well, the one thing that I foresee as happening when we do start active campaigning is an apathy generally with voters in Nigeria. For instance, in the last election, which is the general elections in 2015, there were 68 million voters registered. And of those 68 million, only about half actively participated in voting. And so there is apathy in that arena. And we have to make sure that not only do people understand the power that they have as being a voter, they actually have to use that power, especially when it's time to change things.
Very true. Very true. That's very interesting. And now, coming from like a foreigner's perspective, those foreseeing change in Nigeria, hoping that there might be change in Nigeria, do you think Nigeria is ready for any kind of sudden transformation at all?
Well, Joy, I would not like to use that word change just because the word has been bastardized in the past few years, especially in those regions. Sure. What I would like to use is the word transformation. Having said that, I think Nigeria has been ready for transformation for decades. The reason why I say that is because, as I mentioned earlier, it seems that we have the same faces, the same ideas, and this is the time for a turnaround. And so when you talk about transformation, what it means is that we are coming away from the way we used to think, the way we do things, because a wise person once said that when you continue to do things the same way and expect a different result, it's madness. And so this is the time for us to take the bull by the horns and do the things that we need to do. Put the right people in the right places and make sure that we bring our country into the 21st century.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so very much for that response. Now, we all are aware fully well that a transition in the country's leadership can disrupt the country's advancement effort. Now, tell us what's at stake for Nigeria should this situation arise.
Well, let me correct that notion. I don't think that transition means a stoppage of either projects or progress. What I would say in addition to that when there are viable projects by an outgoing administration, continuity is key. When you know that all this leads to growth of some sort, it is only responsible for a leader to support such viable projects. So transition, again, does not mean cessation. It just means continuity.
Awesome, awesome. Now, looking back in history from past presidents, or world leaders, which of those you think provides inspiration to you and why?
Well, I would say Mandela.
Great.
Because his life was all about service. And through the harsh challenges that he had, his entire life, he persevered. And not only did he persevere, he did it with a good attitude.
Very well.
And so when you look at the life that he lived and the words that he spoke, and he, at the peak of his life, he became the president of South Africa. You cannot but take something away from that. It's inspirational to look at such a life and begin to apply the principles of nonviolence, of patience, of kindness, of understanding.
Very true.
That he exhibited. And that's one of the reasons why I do take inspiration from him.
That's beautiful. That's very true. I mean, he's a renowned, astounding, world leader that's highly, acknowledged and highly respected by even from various leaders
No
of
doubt.
other countries. His life story, his lifespan, everything. From when he speaks, his memories is highly cherished, and he's very respected and highly responsible, and has a lot to say and a lot to give to even every little piece of country and whatever challenges that they are facing. Thank you so much for that response. Now, should you win the presidential election and you were installed as the first female president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, what will you give your immediate situation and your immediate attention to?
Well, that is not a tough question. However, it is challenging.
Yes.
Because it seems that the Nigeria that we are witnessing today is breaking apart. It seems like there is no order in the land. And it seems like our leadership seem to be taking a nap or just disconnected with people in general. And so one of the first few things that I would like to do if I am elected will be to provide a relief package to the millions of Nigerians who are suffering, who are having to endure hardship on a daily basis. Some people don't even eat. Some only have available to them one meal a day. I would like to review the minimum wage of 18,000 naira. I mean, how do you expect a grown man or woman to live on 18,000 naira a month when they may even have to spend 10,000 or more commuting to work? So what that means is they don't have enough left to live. And so I would like to give a relief package to those who have been unemployed for a season or a certain period of time. Also to give tax credits to businesses in order to incentivize them to look into increasing the minimum wage. And the second thing that I'd like to do, it seems, that we have struggled with electricity for so long.
Very true.
And I always say electricity is economics. If you have electricity 24/7, you encourage businesses, and that translates to growth. So we have to see exactly why there is a problem either with generation or with distribution. Now, for as long as I can remember, the very first time that I heard the word sabotage is when my dad said something about the infrastructure on ground. This is ages ago. And he said, oh, it looks as though it is sabotage, why the infrastructure is being tampered with on a regular basis. And so we have to take a critical look as to why we're not able to generate enough energy and why distribution seems to be a problem. Now, having said that, I will also like to explore renewable energy sources, as in solar and wind. And that way, we cut down on the cost of generating and transmitting or distributing electricity. So that is very, very dear to my heart.
That's excellent. It's brilliant ideas and what you're looking at putting in place there for the citizens of Nigeria as a whole. Now, are there any current initiatives, that are in place to embrace the Nigerian youths to be able to succeed in the political arena? Because at this point, it seems as though as a cycle, a lot of people have noticed that the opportunities are not really given to the youths to be able to play a key role in politics in Nigeria. So are there any initiatives in place, or do you think that would be embraced?
Well, they say that the youth are the future.
Sure.
I want to change that somewhat to say the youth are now. This is the time when the youth of Nigeria need to understand that they have to wake up from their slumber. They have to take their own future into their own hands. If there's going to be a transformation in the country, it will all depend on the youth now. Now, having said that, I will say that because they are apolitical, we have to provide a means for them to begin to understand the purpose for which they need to enter into the process. So one way we can bring them into the political arena is by encouraging lawmakers to reserve a spot for the youth in their offices where they can work as interns for a certain period of time. That way they get exposed to the arena and the process, and then they begin to understand that they also can engage. And not only will they engage with the lawmakers one-on-one firsthand, they will also now start to engage their counterparts. So that is one way of getting the youth involved in politics. Our youth have probably been used for different reasons by politicians for their own gains in the past.
Very true.
But now I believe they are beginning to see and understand why they now need to be responsible for their own actions.
Very true. That's very true, because most of the positions that are out there at stake, if I may say, the youths are really almost 100% shy of being able to give given that opportunity to step on those.
And I think it's the terrain that has been created for them. However, like I said, this is an age where technology has made it available, or rather has exposed them to a global environment. And so they know that they have a voice and they can use it. Now what they use that voice for, will determine how far they will go also. But they have to be able to find their voice and use it.
Very true, very true. Now, if we're going to take a step back to a different industry, healthcare, how can we mend the broken state of healthcare in Nigeria and also create equal access to healthcare, especially for the women and children?
Well, it is very dear to me, again, to make sure that our women and children have access to health care. And not only our women and children, men also. And this, when you have good health, that translates to a healthy economy also. And so health care can be divided into three facets. One will be the healthcare resources, the other will be access to healthcare, and then the third, if you will be the healthcare professionals or medical personnel. And so when we talk about healthcare access, we have a NHIS on ground, which is accessible to just 5%, and the 5% are federal workers. And so I ask myself, what about other people?
Yes.
Everyone deserves access to primary health care. And so we have to expand that program to embrace everyone else, especially women and children, like you mentioned earlier, who avoidably don't have to die for reasons that, excuse me.
I mean, no, but you're being sincere and honest about it.
Women and children who don't have to die of basic diseases that we can combat with just basic access to healthcare. So those, we have to expand the NHIS on ground. And one thing we can do in order to embrace everyone and incorporate everyone is to make it mandatory for everyone to have access to the healthcare provision. And so what that means is you put everybody in a pool. That way we're able to accommodate both healthy and not so healthy for the purpose of managing, our health. And then we have to also look at how we can train our medical personnel, or rather retrain, to 21st century standards. We have to make available equipment to them.
As the resources.
Those are the material resources that we need to upgrade our healthcare system in Nigeria. So those are the ways that we can approach the broken healthcare system to begin to mend it.
Just taking away from what you said, we've noticed several Nigerians, since they're not really confident in the healthcare system, they end up, they turn around to go abroad, travel abroad to either the United States, the United Kingdom, or India per se, for better healthcare treatment. But if, like you had mentioned, if we advance to training the knowledge of the medical professionals on ground and equip the place in a much more better, facility and the highest of high, resources being made available, to the entire public, not privatized, because we know there's a private sector of the healthcare, which we have, a lot of foreign doctors that come in, but they're only aligned to that sector. But we want the healthcare to be, managed all around without being streamlined to one aspect, but let even the layman be able to afford better basic healthcare needs.
Well, as you know, Nigeria is the most populous black country.
Of course.
1 in 5, I believe, is Nigerian. What that means is we also have a very high number of very well-educated people.
Absolutely.
Amongst this number will be medical personnel. What has happened over the years, though, is what they call the brain drain. And that has caused not only medical personnel, but people of other, who are employed in other sectors have also migrated to other countries, to greener pastures, if you will. And so when we talk about being the most educated number of people, most educated group of people in diaspora, we have to be able to translate that to development and progress in our country. Now, that is not to say that we still don't have those medical personnel on ground in Nigeria.
Right.
What we need to do is to begin to harness, the resources that we have in order to upgrade and overhaul the healthcare system so that it serves everyone, because it is a basic human right to get access to healthcare.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that response. Now, what do you suggest are the best ways of diversifying the economy, and what strategies do you have in place for attracting foreign investors into Nigeria?
Well, I think, first of all, in order to attract foreign investment, we kind of have to fix our security. That is the number one element that turns people off of coming in to invest, corporations and multinationals. That is one thing that really puts them off coming to invest in Nigeria. We have to secure our borders, and we also have to take care of the uprising, communal clashes, unrest, whatever you want to call them, that happen within the country.
Very true.
So once that is taken care of, that is one way to attract, because we are the largest economy in Africa. And what that means is there is potential in Nigeria. And then we have to begin to look at non-oil sectors in order to begin to harness the resources that we have in those regions so that we can attract not only investment inside the country, but also foreign, because there are people and there are groups and companies in Nigeria who are willing to invest. We just have to make the environment, the terrain, not so stringent.
And then also vice versa, because some other foreign economies do need investors from Nigeria
Exactly.
to also invest within their own economy.
Right.
That's a great thing. Now, let's see. There is a strong decline, absolutely, a strong decline in the educational system. Now, what resources can be put in place to reverse this decline? And also, next question, can e-learning solve the educational crisis in Nigeria?
Well, the short answer is no. E-learning will not solve the educational crisis. However, I do know that there is the National Open University in Nigeria, which incidentally has the largest number of enrollees. It is online. It's an e-learning aspect of education, and it is functioning quite well. However, to touch on the decline in the educational sector, we also need to begin to review the curricula from the primary level through the secondary level all the way to the tertiary level to make sure that we are incorporating elements of science, technology, and mathematics into the curricula to make sure that we are bringing our children current into the 21st global playing field. In addition to that, we also need to retrain our teachers and faculty. Not only do we need our children to be comparable or to be competitive in the global playing field, we also need our teachers to communicate the proper things to them.
Absolutely.
And so that is why our teachers and faculty need to go on retraining programs to keep them current. They will also need to be certified periodically to make sure that they are still relevant. So those are the ways that we can begin to review and overhaul our educational system.
That's very true. Absolutely correct. That's great. Now, how does one, even in various sectors, healthcare, education, justice system, however you want to put it, but how does one arrest the system of corruption in Nigeria? What would you suggest is the best means of addressing the issue of crime and security in Nigeria? And what is the leadership presently, let's say the present administration, what are they doing about the agitation of various groups in the country? That's why I referred to the present administrator.
Well, it seems to me like not enough is being done as far as the different, like I said, communal clashes, uprisings, agitations, whatever you want to call it. Not enough is being done by the government of the day to curtail or to mitigate these crises that are on ground currently. However, when we talk about corruption, corruption did not start today, nor did it start yesterday. It's been a process that has been cooking and simmering for decades in Nigeria. I can touch on the illegitimate children that the interception of the military brought into the system. One is corruption. Like I said, it didn't start today.
Very true.
When we had military coups intercept our democratic process, what that did was to take us back in years. Every time that happened, we stumbled and we struggled to find our way forward again. And so corruption in our system is not something that is touch and go. It is a way of life. Now, what contributed to that even further is the spirit of corruption.
Very true.
Now, what do I mean by a spirit of corruption? It is embedded in our minds and in our hearts. That is the only way that we know to carry out business on a day-to-day basis. And so once we begin to re-engineer the minds of people to understand that they are stealing from themselves, that they are doing themselves a disservice, that it does not contribute to progress, rather it breaks down. We have to begin to engineer the minds of people to understand that. And then they will begin to understand that they need to do what is right. Like Martin Luther King Jr. said that it is always the right time to do what is right. So when you begin to understand that you have no choice but to do the right thing. But it will take awareness. It will take retraining, re-engineering of minds to understand that. Then we can take care of the spirit of corruption, consequently, the system of corruption. Now, we also talked about, what was the other question that you asked me with regard to corruption?
Actually, after the corruption, the next part is what's the best means of addressing the issues of crime and security in Nigeria. And thank you for the response to the corruption.
No, thank you. Joy, one other thing that I would like to say with respect to the military is that, I respect our military.
Definitely, absolutely.
The primary task that the military has is to protect the citizens against external aggression. However, there is a proliferation of military personnel in our system. You can walk from here to there and you will see a soldier. Soldiers, I believe, belong in the barracks, where they train extensively for the purpose of protecting the country and the citizens against external aggression. However, we also need to empower our law enforcement. Now, they are the ones that curtail or mitigate crime on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
So we have to professionalize our law enforcement agencies for them to begin to operate in those areas. Once we continue to professionalize them, then they will also understand their basic task of ensuring law and order and protecting the citizens.
For security purpose there in the country of Nigeria. And through that, now how does one empower the Nigerian policymakers to withdraw non-performing representatives from the system?
Thank you. Well, I believe, according to the 1999 Constitution as amended, it provides an avenue for withdrawing or recalling non-performing or erring representatives or legislators. So unless people take their power and use it, I don't think it's going to be done for them. And I do believe in the past year or so, there have been recalls of either non-performing or erring legislators, but I don't believe there were any positive conclusions as far as that is concerned.
So thank you very much, Princess Niki Roberts, for that response. Now, my next question has to do with housing and infrastructural market. Now, here in Atlanta, Georgia, a couple of years ago, the Nigerian American Annual Business Summit was held here, and that the theme had to do with housing and infrastructural development precisely. Now, how can Nigeria, if I may say, or what do you think would be the best way for Nigeria to contribute to playing a key role towards the innovative changes going on in the housing and probably the infrastructural market in Nigeria or the world as a whole?
Thank you, Joy. I think there is massive potential in every sector in Nigeria because it's a developing nation.
Very true.
Having said that, with regard to housing, we need to begin to look at ways of housing our people. What we can do is to provide tax credits for investors to come in and build affordable housing for our people. And our metropolitan cities are already congested.
Very true.
So what we can do is to stretch out, to expand into new cities and make sure that once there's housing, people will move, people will settle, and businesses will move into those new areas. So, and because Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa, however Nigeria goes is the way that the rest of Africa will go. Once we begin to invest in housing and infrastructure, then there's a trickle-down effect to the rest of Africa. And that's how I see the growth, especially where housing is concerned.
Awesome, awesome. Now, what avenues do you if I may say, I mean, this could be personal, it's different from different leaders or so. But should you assume the role as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ma'am, what avenues do you plan to put in place to receive honest and constructive feedback from the citizens of Nigeria? It's a different approach right now. But when once you mount, hopefully by the grace of God, and you mount to assume that role as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, there's totally change. Everything perspective-wise changed. So some people might not believe. If I might say, I mean, I'm speaking for the masses. I will not believe you're getting the right feedback or positive, constructive feedback from the layman. A lot of people have a lot to say, but the avenue, that medium of getting that information across to you is not. It's probably not there. So how do we fix that, or what do you think? It's approach that you're going to put in place to make sure you hear from the least of the common man.
And that's very important, Joy. We want to stay connected
Sure.
to the people. We are working for the people, and you have to hear what the people are saying. And so, I intend to have an open door policy. There's no way that you can be successful without hearing from all quarters. And so once we have that policy in place of being open to receiving not only a pat on the back when you've done well, but criticism, however harsh they may seem. And so we will have that open door policy. And also, there are non-governmental agencies, pressure groups, individuals who will attempt to hold you accountable to the promises that you've made. And so we will engage with them and work with them on a regular basis.
Okay, that would be great. I mean, I'm very speculative, and I'm looking forward to whoever, through the primaries, decides, or whoever, once the decision is placed out there, that wins. I mean, that's one hope, and that's one thing that I know I'm looking forward to seeing what avenue you're looking at and getting that feedback from the least of the layman or whoever it is. Because it's very important, that connection. Sometimes there's a divide between those in power and authority and the layman, if you notice that, for lack of a better word, but it's there. So we're trying to bridge that gap, and just to show that new change that, your voice is heard.
That's right.
I might be the head of state, but I'm not looking at you as less of a human being. I'm here for you. Whatever oppositions or challenges that you have, we're here to fix it.
Right.
Let me hear your voice. Don't feel scared, because I believe some citizens of Nigeria are scared of their leaders, if I'm not.
You're right. I mean, fear is a weapon that leaders have used over time to keep people in check and bound.
Very true.
And so, we have to remove that, because what a democracy is a government for the people, by the people. And so you have to involve the people in the process. Otherwise, you're representing your own interests. So that's, we do make that promise that we will keep connected to people, because that's why we're there.
Absolutely. Okay, that's great. That's very important. I like that response from you. Thank you very much. Now, do you believe that Nigeria is ready for outsourcing? How can they reap the benefits, and how can they manage the challenges that comes alongside with it, which has to do with success factors, risk, and preparation?
Well, Joy, I don't think we're at that point yet where we're talking about outsourcing. We have a long ways to go with our different industries, and so we are still in the process of building and developing. So we are not ready. I don't believe that we're ready to have that conversation about outsourcing
right now.
So that's the way that I'm going to answer that question.
All right, not a problem. I mean, but tentatively, I think it would be a great thing along the line for Nigeria to probably engage their minds towards outsourcing. I think it would be a beneficial.
Well, perhaps you should explain
factor
to me then what you mean by outsourcing. Maybe
I mean,
I'm
not only
understanding.
resources, like when it comes to communication, telecom, or several arenas. Let's say if for lack of a better word, let's flip the coin around. Here in America, in the United States, we have certain outlets that outsource to foreign countries. Telecom. I'm only speaking strongly in terms of that. So if Nigeria doesn't feel as though the economy is strong enough or equipped enough to handle certain capacities, then by all means they can probably like outsource to another country or so for a certain scale. But I believe both countries would have to come to a certain term, or agreement to see if it would be strongly beneficial for the Nigerian government in that capacity. That's what I meant.
Yeah. Well, quite simply, Nigeria is blessed with human resource.
Of course.
And possibly a little under 50% are youth. And so when we talk about the future, we're talking about a great multitude of young people becoming experts in their fields.
Very true.
And so that's why I say it's probably not a time to talk about outsourcing or having that conversation.
Right now?
Perhaps when we start to have experts in their fields, then we can begin to put those goals in place as to what we want to do as far as outsourcing is concerned.
So thank you so much in reference to that response, Ms. Niki Roberts. Now let's talk a bit about the judiciary system. The system, in the face of many, is non-existent. Justice is always delayed and taken back, if at all there's really strong justice. Sometimes they might not have been sitting in reference to certain cases. Now, what are your thoughts on fixing this situation from reoccurring?
Well, Joy, I would say that the justice system exists. However, in many countries in the world, developed countries and progressive countries, justice is blind. But in Nigeria, not only is the mask taken off of justice, it can see very well. And it chooses who to give justice to. So that is a sector that needs reform. That is a sector that needs reform. And, we are committed to bring in all the reform that is necessary to make sure that we overhaul that system and to make it work for everyone.
Both the citizens and also the non-citizens as well. Okay, great response. Now, as a Nigerian in diaspora, it's a huge challenge that we find ourselves, especially now that the primaries are upcoming, that the Nigerians in diaspora are unable to vote for the candidates of their choice. So in such situations, how can, this issue be addressed or fixed? Whereby no matter what, wherever a Nigerian is, placed in across, abroad or those in diaspora, if I may say, they also have a voice. They can still reach back to vote, cast their vote towards change, towards progress. How can such a system be put in place, and how can that just be fixed? Because I know it aches a lot of Nigerians that they're not able to give back or to have their voice held, just to support for that change or that transformation, for lack of a better word, to see that happen and to see fixation happen in Nigeria.
And you're right, Joy. It is the right of every Nigerian, wherever they are on the face of this earth, to be able to cast their vote for a candidate of their choice in whatever election it is. Having said that, though, two things need to be put in place before diaspora voting is put into work. One will be an act of parliament whereby the law is passed that Nigerians anywhere, as well as on the continent, can vote wherever they find themselves. there has to be an act of law.
Of course.
And the second thing being that the independent electoral body, INEC, also has to be able to organize that voting in such a way that it is efficient
Unfair.
and fair. So I understand that they may not have that capacity for the 2019 elections because, as according to them, the 2015 elections cost so much money, and they're not sure that they can invest in that process right now to enable some kind of registration machinery to be put in place for Nigerians in diaspora, as well as conducting the elections. So those are the two things that need to be put in place for diaspora voting to happen for Nigerians. And we are looking forward to some kind of progress to be made in the near future to enable Nigerians in the diaspora, for whatever reason or the other, that they're there. You know, we're looking forward to a day and a time very soon that they will be able to exercise that right.
That's really, that's an absolute. I'm really looking forward for such an opportunity. And I believe in reference to the revised, the situation whereby, the BVN numbers were given out and still issued out. So for lots of Nigerians still in diaspora, it's really a great thing for you to try to work on getting one. I think that also would be a great machinery to equip others, in whatever part of the world they are, even those within Nigeria, to be able to cast their vote accordingly and in all fairness and accuracy.
That's right.
And I believe strongly, I think it would be a great, without any sentiments, I think maybe Nigerian government there probably looking into the aspect of working towards having we, the Nigerians in diaspora, are given an opportunity to cast our votes, so at least for a better development, better key interest, and even those like you willing to come back home to run for elective offices and strong offices. So that's really a good punchline, if I may say. Now, tell us your plan on how you're looking at, adapting to dramatic changes, because these are two different worlds apart. Nigeria's system is strongly different from what you're used to here in the United States. So what are you planning on adapting to should in case a dramatic change occurs while in office? Hopefully, by the grace of God, if you get, you get your dreams accomplished and also, what you're hoping for, whatever kind of office it is. But what have been some of your challenges either in business or personal life? And what have you learned from them?
Well, I think with my wealth of experience in business and in administration, we've had all kinds of challenges. And what happens is you grow, you stretch yourself when you have challenges, and that allows you to grow and to go to the next level. So when you talk about dramatic changes, I don't foresee a change, however dramatic it may be, that we will not be able to adapt to because of the experience and, what we bring to the table. So you just roll with it, if I may say so. You use your wealth of experience to adapt to the changes around you.
And I really am really connected to this strong exuberance, this air of confidence that is coming from you. I'm really absorbing it, and I believe in what you're going for, your plans, and without any discrimination or anything. Just you going out there yourself, trying to put in your very best foot forward to support Nigerians and to help to build Nigeria as a whole, and what you're doing in as much as you're contesting for the elected position as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But I strongly do admire your courage and everything that you have equipped in you to pour out to Nigerians to make Nigeria great and to see the best and the benefit for Nigeria. And so do you have any final remarks at all, Ms. Niki Roberts? Because I do believe that the audience, in one way or the other, they might want to reach out to you to have maybe one or two words of encouragement to you or something. So if you would, I believe you probably might want to leave your contact information on the screen, like through email, or probably, her campaign information is already going through the screen right now, that you would have best way to contact her, email, website, whatever the case may be. She is totally a leader that's ready for the betterment of Nigeria and has an open door policy. So let your questions keep rolling in. Give her your best advice because she's putting her foot forward. So we also need you as Nigerians to put your word out there, putting your best voice forward to help her to succeed in this next upcoming election, presidential election for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Miss Nikki Roberts, do you have any final remarks, any final thing to say to the beautiful people out there that are listening to you and excited for you, excited about this transformation that's going to be coming forward to Nigeria?
Thank you, Joy. Well, I would like to say that, actually, I'd like to make an appeal for every Nigerian of voting age. Go out and register while the continuous voter registration is ongoing. Register as a voter and get your permanent voter's card so that you can vote in the upcoming elections. Remember, the power lies in your hands. It is time for us to be responsible for our own actions or inactions. Listen, when we put leaders there who do what they want to do, we can complain from now till tomorrow, it will not change. But when we take the power that we have in our hands and make sure that we put people there who will do what we want them to do, then we can start enjoying together as a people. Now, I would also like to say that this is a movement. And I would like for everyone to understand that this vision is pure in the sense that we are untainted. As much as we need new ideas, new faces, we also need to key in to this movement. It is a movement to transform. And I want us to see a better Nigeria in our time. It is not reserved for the future. It is reserved for now. So let's work through this together and let's make this a reality. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Miss Nikki Roberts. I truly appreciate you once again for coming on the show and just really expressing yourself, your joy, your love, your aches, and wanting to see that transformational change for the people and the citizens of Nigeria and Nigeria as a whole. And like she did specifically say, not only is this a movement, it's your call. You have the power of change in your hands. So go out there, every Nigerian. I wish we, those in that diaspora, could extend ourselves to vote. But apparently, we're supporting with our love, our prayers, and any kind of efforts in one way or the other. But those of you back there, you need to exercise your power. That power is in your hand. Exercise the authority. Go out and vote. Go out and be that change you want to see. And trust me, that change would come. And I just want to thank you for tuning in once again. And I'm your host, Joy Buck on Real Talk with Joy. Syndicately with Real Talk with Joy. It's all about real people living real lives and addressing real issues. God bless you. See you again. Take it away. Thank you.